Hi.
How you doing, Art?
I'm good. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late. I was having a hard time finding parking. I apologize.
Oh no, that's really fun. I have to say, first and foremost, I'm jealous of the room you're in. I love those records behind you. It's
Oh
very
yeah,
creative space you're in.
what's funny is I never put these up. They're up in this is my office at my studio, right? You can see my guitars and stuff.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
my studio. But my whole life until I had this place like 5, 6 years ago, they've just been sitting in the boxes that they came in. I
Oh
never put them
wow.
up in my house. It just seemed kind of gratuitous, to do that. But this seems like a good place for it.
Yeah, I
With
mean
all
you've got
my,
it. I mean,
all,
I can put myself in your position. I think I would have a room dedicated to exactly that.
it just seemed, yeah, I mean, I'm very proud of them. We earned all this stuff. It's nothing we
Exactly.
haven't earned, right? But
Yeah.
it seems a little garish to put
Oh.
them up in your house. Ah, but what's funny is this last Sunday I saw Craig Montoya for the first time in almost 20 years, 19 years.
Wow. Wow.
And it was really wonderful seeing him. We just got along great, and he came up on stage and played a song with us, and it was really cool. But
Wow, wow, that's great.
he told me that without getting into it, someone had destroyed all of his platinum records, all of them,
Oh,
and
wow.
and his gold and platinum records, and his significant other now, and his best friend Davey, David LaPrince used to be our touring guitar player, bought him all the Afterglow ones. So he's got all the Afterglow ones, but I'm secretly getting him all the other ones, and he doesn't know about it yet. So don't say
Oh, good
anything.
on you.
But
Good on you.
I'm
That's
gonna
a
get
good
him.
friend.
Well, man, we had a falling out, a really bad one, long time ago, and it's just like we've grown up, and we just let it go, and it's never going to be what it was, and that's okay. He's like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be in my life. I love my job. I love my wife, my girlfriend, my kids. You love yours. I'm like, absolutely. Everyone's happy. It's just, just get those resentments out of the world. Just grow the hell up, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's
Act
really
like
good.
grown men.
So, I mean, I don't want to
No
keep you
time
too
for that.
long. I know you're very busy. So, and I've got a long list of questions on my little iPad in front of me here to ask you about your
Okay,
tour. And I know you're doing
let's
it.
get at it.
Yeah, yeah. I know you're
Yeah,
doing
for
it.
some reason I can't get you. I can't get you any louder than you are, and I thought my earplugs, but obviously they're not. So if you could speak a little louder, that'd be
Yeah, no, well, okay. So I know, just to start off things, I know you're doing a tour over here starting next month. You're doing a range of cities, and I want to get to that because you're going to be touring with Soul Asylum. Oh, are you there?
right.
Oh, all right, it's cutting out a little bit there.
Did I freeze? I'm okay.
In a very complimentary way.
I can hear you.
Don't worry. Oh, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, let's carry on. I think it's just a little bit of the distance between us. I think. Where am I
Yeah.
talking to you from, by the way?
I'm sorry.
Where am I talking to you from at the moment? What city?
I'm in Pasadena. I live in Pasadena, California. It's a suburb of Los Angeles. My house is literally a mile that way. So on this street. So
obviously you're going to be doing a tour over here next month, and I want to get into that. But I just want to go rewind a little bit, because obviously this year is very celebratory because your debut album came out almost 30 years ago, which is a huge milestone. Take us back to the very start of Everclear, and what are your fondest memories about putting that particular album together?
It was my first album working with Craig and Scott, our original drummer, and one of the reasons I wanted to do it was I got this guy time for some effects I wasn't using, a reverb unit. And so I got $400 worth of trade, which at $10 an hour was 40 hours. And we had 12 songs. And really what I wanted to do was document them and see, you know, it's one thing when you're playing them live, you really can't tell what's going on with the song until you hear a real recorded version of it, even a rudimentary recorded version of it. And I'm not a demo guy. I don't demo songs. To me, they got to be fresh. You record them one time. That's it. That's how we've always done it. Yeah. And when we recorded this, going in and doing it with them, Craig and Scott were just on top. We did it after work. You know, we all work jobs. So we come in and work from like 5 or 6 till midnight every night 1 week. And then I mix the whole next week after work, you know, to mix the songs. And it had magic in it. You know, there was definitely something there. So that gave me a lot of joy when I played it for the guys. I'm just like, it sounds pretty badass. It's a lot of noise, a lot of feedback because my amp needed new tubes, but I couldn't afford it. We were poor, man. We didn't have money, you know, but it reinvigorated the band to like, wow, we got something here. And I sent out a tape that weekend after mixing it to South by Southwest, a big music festival down in Austin, Texas. And they called me that week saying this was a late entry, but they loved it, the tape, and they wanted us to be a part of it. So I had to figure out how to get down there. So we toured there, played clubs that I played like with other band, you know, my band before at Colorfinger, and stayed on people's floors and just went there for low dough, and it was awesome. It was great. We had 2 shows, and before I left, I sent out copies of the tape, which I was calling World of Noise because it was just so full of feedback and noise. And I sent it out to clubs and writers all over the Northwest. And while we were gone, people just lost their minds. My girlfriend at the time, who became my second wife, like I called her, this is way before cell phones, right? This is way before cell phones, yeah. Before I had a cell phone. It was 1993. And she's like, you need to get home. People are losing their mind. Anybody in town is talking about is your band and your album. I go, album? They're calling it an album. And I'm like, wow, okay. And we had write-ups in just about every paper up and down in the Northwest all over. And we had offers. I had like 67 phone calls, messages on my phone machine. This is before voicemail, you know? And that was the start of it. So when I look back at this record, I look back with a lot of gratitude, and just to be able to, it was reaffirming for this band. This band wouldn't have happened without that record because it was so reaffirming, and it was the jumpstart that we needed to go to the next level.
So what was it like? Describe what it was like going through the remastering of the album, because it's getting a remaster, it's going onto vinyl, and also for the first time on digital platforms, because obviously digital wasn't around. The industry's changed quite a lot from 1993 to now. So what was it like going back into this particular album, remastering it, and having it available on like all of those different platforms that weren't available back 30 years ago?
Well, to answer your latter question, we're still getting used to that. It's weird, you know, because fans have been asking for us to put on social media ever since digital platforms have come into play like 10, 15 years ago. But yeah, when we made the record, we made CDs on the indie label. And then when we went to Capitol, they wanted me to just give them the record for free. I'm like, no, I'll license it to you for $500, not for a lot of money. I'll license it to you for free, and you can put it out, but I'm not going to give it to you. And so they had a 5-year license. They made vinyl, CD, and cassettes. They mastered it without me being there while I was on tour. And I didn't love the master. It was really high-endy and kind of thin, but I lived with it for the time. And you know, it's been out of print since '99. But in '99, we had multi-platinum records. We were touring the world. I didn't have time to deal with that, you know. And then social media came out. What really not social media, but like digital platforms around 2010, 2008, something like that. And I didn't want to do it with the old master, and I didn't know where the master tapes were.
Wow.
And so earlier this year, me and my bass player Freddie found the tapes in a trunk way in the back of my storage in this unit here. It's way in the back. And we, you know, I had to take it to a studio where they actually baked the tapes, cleaned the tapes to see what we had. And I've got bands, 2 or 3 bands before Everclear, but we had the basic Everclear tapes and all sorts of other tapes as well. Just a big old, just locker full of them, you know. And that was really special, listening back to them without the mastering, listening back to them like what you're asking, and having them mastered. And it just sounds so much better to me. And putting it out on digital felt really good because fans are buying like old copies of that for like a couple $100, $200-300. I don't want to do that. It's $10. Buy it for $10. And it sounds better. And I put a bunch of extra songs on there, some bonus tracks, a couple that have never been heard before. So I think it's a really good package full of value for hardcore Everclear fans. And for people who just like 90s alternative rock, I think they'll like the record as well. So that going forward, like you said, vinyl, we just signed the deal for vinyl. I'm working on the artwork right now. That should be out sometime next year. We'd hope to have it by Christmas. They're just backed up making the vinyl, the companies that make vinyl, because everybody wants vinyl right now. So
yeah, vinyl, I mean, definitely vinyl's made a huge comeback, hasn't it, in the industry?
Huge. Yeah. Way over CD. It's like 5-to-1 over CDs.
Yeah.
10-to-1 over cassette. But the company that we signed with that licensed it, I didn't give it to them. I licensed it to them for about 5 years, and it's a pretty good deal. They're going to put out different vinyl on different color, all colored vinyl. They're going to put out like 4 different versions, which is really cool. And they're all going to have a single in it, a colored vinyl single it's just going to be a great package and a lot of fun for people who are fans and people who are just vinyl fans. You know, I know people who are vinyl fans will buy anything that's cool, you know. Like, what is that?
Especially like, I mean, I know as a teenager of the 90s, you know, I'm very much all about physical product. So, you know, being able to collect those collector's items like vinyl is really special.
Well, vinyl just sounds great, man. Whatever you listen to, it sounds great. And it's just cool because, you know, that's how I grew up in the 70s and 60s, right? Holding vinyl, you know, just holding this big piece and listening to it and reading every word on it, you know, and just devouring that record. And I feel like everything with social media now, everything, my 15-year-old is really into whatever she can, a very short attention span. Everything's 15 seconds, you know, everything's 30 seconds. And it's a shame too, because it doesn't give you a time to really sink your teeth into whatever it is, whether it's a movie or a TV show or writing or music. I think you need a little time to slow down, pause, and just enjoy it and savor it and understand it. But you know, I'm an old boomer. I'm 60 years old. So what do I know?
You know, with that, you know, leading on from that, you know, 90s music, 90s pop music, 90s rock music, all of, you know, that era of music has become very popular in the live scene. You know, all of the 25th anniversary editions of all of these amazing albums are coming out, all again on vinyl. What do you think it is about the 90s, that era of music, but also what is it that you think it is about Everclear that's been so long lasting?
Well, first to talk about the 90s alternative scene, I mean, you know, the door was open to Nirvana by the success of Nirvana. I mean, there was bands that led up to Nirvana, and they'd be the first to tell you that But it all culminated with them and, you know, their talent and Kurt's vision. And he opened the door for a lot of people, our band included, you know. And one of the things, and Kurt and Dave and Chris, and everybody from all those bands, we all grew up in the 70s. We all grew up with Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Jethro Tull and then punk rock and new wave and then hip hop and then early alternative bands, Underground, The Replacements, REM, Pixies, Jane's Addiction. You know, we grew up with all these bands, and when we finally made music, it's hard rock, which is melodic, it's guitar based, and it's lyrically, I think, more stimulating than songs were maybe 40 or 50 years ago. And I think that came from growing up, well, a lot of the bands growing up with hip hop and music that was more lyrically intense and pertinent. That being said, as far as Everclear goes, I mean, I'd say, you know, the thing, Brennan, is that 30%, at least 30% of the people who are coming out to our shows are kids. They're in their late teens, early 20s, mid 20s. They weren't around when Everclear.
Yeah.
I was talking about all the kids coming to shows and stuff, and I talked to them about, excuse me, what, you know, what, you know, why are you into a band that was a big deal, like, you know, 20, 30 years ago, 25 years ago? They're like, because music today just doesn't rock. There's no rock, there's no great stories. And so they've all like kind of gravitated to 90s. And a lot of them feel like 90s alternative rock was the last bastion of pure rock and roll. And I get that. And, you know, I think of people who are into lyrics, people who are into melodies and stuff like that, glom onto Everclear. And we're still out there putting on great shows. You know, we're guys old enough to, with some of these kids, to be their grandparents. You know, I could easily be their grandparents.
Yeah.
And we're very respectful of them and grateful that they're just into the music, man, and they're into it. And last time we were in the UK, unfortunately, we weren't on a very well promoted tour. This time we are on a great tour with Soul Asylum, and we got 3 shows, solo shows in Oxford, Newcastle, and Glasgow, where we're headlining. But the other 8 shows are with Soul Asylum, and we're super stoked about that. And I think it's just going to open the door for a lot of people in the UK to see Everclear and hear Everclear for the first time live.
Well, that actually it leads me on perfectly to my questions around Everclear live, because I've seen you perform live over in Sydney, and I loved it. I think you're an amazing performer. So with these shows that you've got, the ones with Soul Asylum, how did that come about? Who initiated the conversation about co-headlining the tour?
Well, we were trying to book a tour. They were trying to book a tour. Our agents were aware of it, and the agents talked to management and asked me, and probably asked Dave, and we're like, yeah, I would love to do that. We're stronger together, you know? I think a lot of people who would like both bands and would be more inclined to buy tickets, because after COVID, it's better than it was last year, but it's not back to what it was. It just isn't. And you know, with everything that's going on in the UK right now, politically and economically, it's you know, you got to give a lot of value to get people to spend money and come out for a show. And I think this tour gives you a lot of value, a lot of songs, a lot of hits.
So what is it about touring that you like the most? You know, given that you've been doing it for 30 plus years, what is it about live shows that excite you the most?
I love being in the moment. I love being up there without a net. I think Soul Asylum and us are two of the last bands that I know of that we don't use tracks. We don't use recorded tracks with what we play. When you hear us live, it's live. We're live without a net. And that's exciting to me. That's the way it's supposed to be live to me. It's just, you go out there and you bring everything you got and you leave everything you got on that stage, everything. And that's exciting to me, that challenge of doing that every night. I love it.
Something that you
I love being on stage. The traveling,
Yeah.
getting kind of tired of. You know, I'm
Yeah.
tired of. I'm
Yeah.
60. I've been doing it for 30-some years, 40, almost 40 years, touring with different bands. So, but I love playing shows and I love meeting people.
Yeah. You had made a comment earlier about younger people coming to your tours and your shows. What are your thoughts on that? Because obviously, like you said, they weren't around the first time around when Everclear were so big and, you know, bringing out all these records in the 90s. What do you think it is about Everclear that's pulling these younger crowds? Do you think it's the parents taking them along? Do you think it's them sort of like getting to know Everclear?
I think they like the songs. I think they like the rock. I think they like the music. Like I said before, the ones I talk to, and I talk to kids at every show, I'm like, you're like 20 years old. What the hell are you doing at the show? You know, I'm old enough to be your grandpa. And they're like, you rock. Your band rocks. You write great songs. I love the music. I can sing along with your songs, and the lyrics mean something. And I think they feel like a lot of music today is kind of shallow. That's what I get from them, and I kind of agree with a lot of that. I mean, there's some bands out there. I mean, there's Americana, like the U.S. Americana bands that are kind of like old school, like old-timey country bands that are call themselves Americana. I think there's some really cool bands doing cool stuff, and it's not very produced, and it doesn't sound like everything else. But other than that, everything sounds the same. Pop music sounds like hip hop, rap, metal, alternative. It all sounds the same to me. You know, it's like when we were coming up, musicians were constantly listening to what everyone was doing behind them, to the sides of them, and trying to make music for the future. And now I think everybody seems like a lot of the younger acts are trying to sound like, oh, they had a hit over here. Let's sound just like that, you know, instead of just listening to all this different music that, because of the technology we have, we're blessed with being able to have music going back 100 years, you know, being able to be influenced by it. And it doesn't seem like that's connecting with a lot of younger artists, unfortunately.
So final question.
That doesn't mean that there aren't them out there. I just don't know about them.
Yeah, they're hard to find. So last question for you, Art, because I know you're busy. I don't want to take up any more of your time.
I appreciate it.
What are you most looking forward to, apart from coming over and talking politics and learning about our unstable government over here? What are you most looking forward to about your next trip over to the UK and doing these shows?
I love coming to the UK. I love the history. I love going to places when we have time. I don't know if we'll have time, but you know, I'm gonna get when I'm up in Scotland, I'm gonna get a deep fried Mars bar. You know,
you have to. Traditional.
Get some pies. I'm not gonna have haggis. I had haggis back in the 90s. I tried it. Not a fan. And blood pudding, I tried that too. All joking aside, just come and, you know, just see a bunch of old Everclear fans that have been with us for years and they're still online. So I look forward to connecting with them. And I've got friends that live over there, so they'll come out to some shows, and that, you know, it's just going to be a lot of fun, and see the guys and hang out with the guys and Soul Asylum, Dave and the guys, and that's going to be a blast. And there's guys in my band who've never been over there. Most of us have, but a couple haven't. And it's going to be great to see how they handle it. It's just going to be a nice experience. We're looking forward to it.
Well, I can't wait to catch you again over here. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing tour.
I hope you make it to a show.